Hello everyone and welcome to episode 85 of Muscle Asylum Radio, and technically our third episode that we're going to upload on our new YouTube channel, Muscle Asylum TV. We are joined by Mick the Gift Galley, which is the handsome guy with a mohawk you can see in one of these corners. Chris up, Ethos Thomas, the handsome man with the beard. That's a handsome beard, Chris. That's I'm so glad you've let that grow. I'm so glad that you haven't shaved that and you've kept the greys. Yeah, you've kept the greys. Keep the greys in there. It actually makes you look younger. I reckon if you dyed those greys, it'll make you look like one of those old dudes trying to look like younger, like Galley. And then we've got the Godfather of Australian Bodybuilding, Tony Doherty, in the corner there. It looks like it's still daylight over there, Tony. Well, what time is it?
Yeah, we've got daylight savings here in Victoria, so it's still it's 8 o'clock, but it's still pretty light. I'm sitting on the balcony.
Fuck, it's 8
inside of the apartment.
8 o'clock here, and it's not light in Sydney. What's happening? Let's do the rounds. Boys, how was your New Year's? We'll start with Galley. What'd you get up to?
Well, I had a pretty quiet New Year's. We, as you know, you haven't been there, Chris. We went and saw the fireworks up on the roof. So Azza and Logan and a few others came over, and we watched the 8 o'clock ones, and they all left because we were all a bit old now. And I went to bed, woke up at 10 to 12, watched the midnight ones, then went back to bed.
Oh, wow.
Things have changed. Times have changed,
haven't they? What about you, Christopher? I reckon Chris had a bed now.
Yeah, look, I went and saw some friends down the coast, and haven't seen them for a while, which is good. And one thing led to another, and a nice bottle of Japanese whiskey or two went down over the couple of days there. So I'm pretty pleased. So I tried a couple of new ones out, pretty happy with. So.
Chris, you seem different because we're on video. Are you a little bit awkward because you can see everyone now?
No, because I've actually got pants on tonight. I normally record.
Oh, fucking Tony, what's happening? How's your New Year's? And I'm sure you're a busy man as usual. Straight into 2019.
Yeah, I was away for a couple of weeks before Christmas. It was Bob Lorimer's 60th birthday, so 40 of us flew from all over the world, all the different partners from around the world, and all these mates from Columbus and New York and LA, and we met in a place called Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. And had 7 days of all you can eat and all you can drink there. So I had a ball, and I got back 2 days before Christmas, and then I had the kids for a week and caught up with some friends on New Year's Eve. And same as you guys, I did all of those things. I watched the fireworks. I actually drank some Japanese whiskey.
Yes.
My mate bought a bunch of red wine because my mate owns a winery, and then got home, got some sleep, and I've been pretty much straight back into it. Since then, I worked all last week, but the whole Arnold team came back today, so we're full steam ahead. It's been an incredible few weeks. I had a ball.
I'll tell you right now, it didn't look like you had a shit time over there. You were fucking riding out in the mud on four-wheelers, and there was some pretty ugly Sheilas hanging around with you the whole time too. It looked like it. It was like, yeah, look, they had a shit time.
Our Brazilian crew, it was terrible, but. Look, we got to ride some buggies, which was like a mud tour through all these mud puddles. And me being an Aussie country boy, I ran everyone off the road. I got the whole kitchen, just killed them all day until we actually got kicked off the tour in the end. The guy said we were the worst ones he's ever had. And we did some cool stuff. We went out in catamarans to deserted islands and ocean boats and snorkeling and drinking and all that kind of stuff. In fact, it's the first trip I've had in 5 years that we didn't have a event or an expo on, so it was just all fun.
Yeah.
And no regrets. I flew in through New York and got a couple of days there, which was really nice because Christmas time in New York's pretty special, and then down to Punta Cana, which is also the cigar capital of the world, and we just had a ball. I'll leave it at
that. Yeah, I can only imagine. I was going to get straight into the Arnold questions, but there was
actually I've got one for Tony. I wanted to find out because he'll know. Tony, Dan Solomon, what's he been appointed to?
I think it's like executive director or something. It's a position like that with AMI, which is just American Media Interest, which owns the Olympia. So David Peck is the owner of that, and I think he's kind of in charge of the business side of the Olympia. I haven't spoken to him. I sent him a message, said, hey, congratulations. He's a great guy, Dan. I was doing interviews like this with him years and years ago when he started with Bob Chick and went onto his own stream and his muscle media or whatever it's called. And he's always been a really good guy, very good to me. He's a family sort of guy, lives down in Florida, and I think he's got a good rapport with the athletes, and I think some interesting things are happening. I know he's reached out and connected with a few athletes that perhaps didn't get on with the old administration, and I think it's a pretty good move for everyone, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard there was a rumour maybe the Olympia's going back to the Mandalay Bay 2020. Have you heard that?
I haven't. It's not been confirmed. I heard the same rumour, but I've not heard that from anyone official. But I'll check it out. Come on, I'll be good.
Right.
I'm just going to quickly get some formalities out of the way real quick. Just for the people competing at the upcoming IBB Pro shows, we've got some posing clinics coming up. Western Australia Posing Workshop, Saturday the 12th of January at 12 o'clock at Doherty's Gym, Perth. I'm doing these now real quick. South Australian Workshop, Saturday the 19th of January at the Adelaide Fitness and Performance Centre. Then we have the Victorian Workshop, Saturday 2nd of February. I don't even know what this gym is. Doherty's Gym, Brunswick. That was supposed to be a joke. Real funny. That was good. Boom. Free workshop, posing workshop at Queensland, Saturday 9th of February at World Gym Ashmore, and our New South Wales posing workshop will be at Gold's Gym Miranda, 1 till 3 p.m, Sunday the 20th of January. Just wanted to get those out of the way because they are coming up real quick. Tony, you've just recently released the names of everyone competing at the Australian Arnolds, all the pros in the bodybuilding, figure, bikini, all the categories. How do you feel about the list of turnouts that you managed to get here in Australia?
But I'm pretty happy with it. I thought this year might be a little bit tough because last year being the 30th anniversary in Columbus, everyone came out of the woodwork. So it was an incredible lineup. It was always going to be really hard to beat. But I think we've got some great headliners there, with Josh, with Rolley, Winklaar, William Bonac. They're all confirmed. The list I've put up is everyone that I've invited. So there's a couple of maybes there, which I'm waiting on confirmation. But the contracts are coming in every single day. And I think the bikini lineup is Olympia standard. The figure lineup's probably not as strong as it's been, and the fitness lineup is absolutely next level. So I think it's going to be a fantastic show. The tickets are selling well. I think the one thing I've been able to do, guys, is I made a decision this year to allow every Australian that nominated to get into the show. Because I thought back to when I started this whole thing 19 years ago with the Australian Pro. I wanted to put on something that Australians could compete in because it was so hard, to get an invite overseas and so expensive to travel. So I thought, let's just go back to our roots and let's give all the Australians an opportunity to compete, in their home country and get on stage with the best in the world in all the categories. And the response, across all of those categories with Australians has been phenomenal. And that's probably my highlight of the whole thing, to be honest, is to see that our Aussies are getting a chance to do an Arnold Classic and that we've been able to get them all in. And, I know they're all really pumped about it. The messages I've got from them have just been phenomenal. So that's probably, at this stage, I think the best part about the show, that we've got some good Aussies in there. They're going to get to stand up with the best in the world. And, a couple of them will push through.
Christopher, your boy Stevie Orton got another invite. It's going to be good to see him back on stage. He made some headlines last year on stage, probably being the most conditioned, in my opinion, and with those crazy glutes and crazy package he brought to stage last year. He's only 10 weeks out. Has he been preparing leading up until now with the possibility of an invite, or is he starting to basically prep now?
Yeah, the whole time, mate. I mean, he's a pro. He's got to do that, So obviously, that he sent that through as soon as Tony confirmed with him, and he was wrapped. So he's ready to rumble, man. Like 10, 11 weeks out, he's very large. So if we can duplicate some condition, from last year, last year, as I said, we were very happy with 7th. That was a great position, but he could have got a couple higher. It's just one of those things. It could go either way, But if he, if we find that same condition again with a couple extra kilos, he's balanced a few more things out. Man, he'll be pretty dangerous. Hey, he'll be gunning for a top 5 position in my opinion. So, but mate, so happy for the Aussies, man. And Josh Lenardowitz, I don't know, man. Like, how big is this guy? Seriously, man. Like, if he'll knock this thing over, in my opinion. That's what I'm thinking. So
the biggest thing about Josh, and the thing about Josh is the last time I saw Josh when we had that promoters meeting, Tony, in Melbourne a couple of months ago, how healthy he looked. He just looks very, very healthy, and that is a big thing because he didn't look stressed at all. It's as if he's got everything in tune with his life now. He's got no external stresses or anything like that, and that in turn, I think his cortisol levels are going to be nice and low, and he's just going to come into this show looking the best he's ever looked.
Yeah, look, I see him all the time. I think back at that meeting, he was 140 plus kilos, nearly 145 kilos, something. He's still between 130 and 135. He's never looked like this far out from a show. I've never seen him do cardio this far out. I've never seen him so mentally switched on and clear and right in the mind. You know, he needed that time off, but it gave him a really good chance just to clean out his body, just to get healthy, and as you said, to come in, to start his prep in a really good position. And I can tell you this: he's going to Columbus to win the show. He's coming here to win the show. He's not going there to make up numbers. Josh is not one of these guys who thinks top 10 or top 5. He's all out. And he's beaten all those guys before. He's beaten Cedric. He's beaten Rolley. He's beaten Bonac. He's beaten Brandon Curry. He's beaten all the top performers at the Arnold at some stage in his career. So, man, they've got to watch this guy. I'm telling you, he's switched on. He's as strong as a bull as he always is. And he's in great shape for 10 weeks out. Crazy.
He's definitely one of the front runners, and you see Dave Palumbo's constantly talking about him. He does his little muscle in the mornings, and you can just see from Josh's posts and also the way he talks on social media. It's a different guy. It's really uplifting and inspirational because we all know what damage he can do. And like you said, Tony, he's beaten all these guys. To me, he's got the best package out of those guys. He's just got to dial it in 100%, which I think he'll do.
Yeah,
his headspace. Even with these little recordings he does every morning, I watch him every day, mate. His head's in the right place. Even just the way that he talks about what he talks about. You can see it, So,
it's as if nothing's going to disturb that. You get that. That impression, like nothing. There's smiling,
speaking. He's just he's happy as He's happy as it's fucking awesome to watch.
Yeah.
I know him really well, and I know his headspace really well, and I've had to do less work with him than ever before because he's already there, and he's happy with where he's at. He's got a real quiet confidence about him, and I love that competitiveness of Josh. He's not going there to make up numbers. Let me tell you, he's supremely and quietly confident, but he's all out. It's war.
Yeah, that's unreal. And look, the competitors that you've chosen for Australia in this bodybuilding division are probably the best ambassadors we have for the sport here in regards to professionalism and the way they conduct themselves online and on stage. And guys like Sam Pearce. Now, Sam Pearce has made some dramatic improvements, and he did the Arnold last year, and he knew he was outmatched. He knew he was there, not just to make up numbers, I guess, but he just wanted to test the waters. But that didn't throw him at all. Now he looks like he's come in and he's had a massive off-season, and the dramatic change he's made in just 12 months is pretty amazing. So I see him in the mix. I don't know if he'll crack top 5, but I definitely see him. You've got more than 10 here. I'll definitely see him in that top 10.
Yeah, look, I see a sort of similarity between him and Steve Orton, Chris. That they've both kind of tested the waters, maybe got overlooked or not noticed in that lineup last time, but now everyone knows who they are. They're expecting to see them. They've both made tremendous gains. And look, I think you're right, Mark. We've sort of had a no grub rule this year. I didn't want any shit blokes in the show, and we've got the 3 best blokes with Justin Wessels, Josh, and Sam Pearce. You could possibly.
Sorry, I was just looking at Chris laughing. I love the fact we have video now, and the whole no grub rule just made Chris fucking lose his shit.
Let's be honest, it worked out pretty good, and I think you or someone put a post up the other day with the 3 of them together.
Yeah.
And I looked at that and I really smiled. I thought, Australian bodybuilding is in a really good place, and with 3 guys like that, and look, Wessels is a really interesting cat because when you see him live, his condition is so phenomenal. And I go to pro shows all over the world, and there's always a few guys that just miss their conditioning, or they try too hard in the last week, or they carb up too much, or whatever. Wessels won't do that.
No.
So that automatically gets him off the bottom of the list and up at least kind of halfway before he even does his thing. And if he improves what he needs to improve, and he's really honest and open about that, mate, I think he can do some damage there as well.
Let's be realistic here. We'll talk about Wessels. How far do you think his conditioning can bring him up the ranks in placings? Because he's not going to match it for. We're being realistic. He's not going to match it for size. Look, next to guys, I'm just looking at the list now. Sam Pearce, he doesn't have Orton's size, but he maybe outdoes Orton on symmetry. But then Orton probably can match him on conditioning. How far up the list do you think Wessels' conditioning could possibly place him?
Honestly, you don't know, because we've seen him. We've never seen him in a lineup like this. Like, we've seen him against competitors, and he's pretty much easily beaten. Like, I've wanted Justin to compete with us forever, for a long, long time. And with anyone that turns pro, I've been around it long enough to know that until you stand next to, Rolley, Winklaar, or William Bonac, or Josh Arnowitz, or Brandon Curry, and these guys, you really don't know what you've got. So I think his conditioning alone, as I said, will bring him almost halfway up the list. And then let's see what improvements he's made. And he's a very competitive guy as well. And he won't be out conditioned. He won't be out of shape. And he poses well. And remember, the Arnold Classics get scored on posing as well. So, look, I feel really good about the three guys we've got in. Well, let's say four guys, Chris, because I include Steve like an Aussie as well. And he's a great guy and a great ambassador. And but I'm just really happy where the sport's at. And I just want to encourage every Australian to come and support our Aussies, across the bikini, the fitness, the figure, and the bodybuilding. If you've got someone you follow and someone that you admire and someone you aspire to be like, for Christ's sake, come to the show and support them and clap and cheer. Because when I announce them and walk them out on stage, I just want the place to erupt every time I say, from Australia, To me, I get chills just thinking about it.
Yeah, but it does. And like, if anyone has been to these shows, they know exactly what the crowd is like when an Australian is announced. And especially when they're people of the likes of Sam Pearce. I can't wait to hear the crowd when Justin Wessels' name is called out. I think Justin Wessels, but just because so many people, you said yourself, you've been trying to get him to compete with the Pro League for so long, but so many people have wanted to see him on that pro stage for so long, and it's finally happening. And look, I'm going to make a mention of condolences. His father just passed away recently. He just had his funeral today. Even the way he conducted himself around such a traumatic experience in his life and the way he's gone about his prep on top of dealing with what he's had to deal with just oozes professionalism and just a great human. And I think just everyone's just happy for these guys.
Yeah, look, he's a really classy guy. It was a few days after his dad passed away, and I had no idea because I hadn't been on social media. I've been away. And I sent him a message saying, hey, you're the only person that hasn't sent their agreement in and nominated on, because they have to nominate on this form to be in the Arnold. I said, man, what's up? You got to get this thing done. He goes, sorry, my dad passed away a couple of days. I'll get onto it right now. And he was so apologetic, I'm like, Justin, shit, take your time, man. And he got it to me within 5 minutes. And, we had a talk about what he'd been through. And he said, let me tell you, Tony, I never had one cheat meal. I never missed a workout, no matter what I was going through with Dad, and I'm doing it for him. And it was really touching. But I think you'd expect nothing less of Justin. I just think he's all the way a class act. And we got a taste of walking him out at the Nationals, Mark. You were there, and you guys were there. And to see him walk out on stage and to announce him, just the feeling of the crowd of saying, wow, he's really here. He's finally come to the Pro League. He's probably going to win today. And, of course, he did. And it was probably one of my proudest moments in bodybuilding. Yeah.
And I know for a fact that so many people were there just to watch Justin too. And that just goes to show, if one person alone can draw a crowd at a local state show, then, it means a lot. It means a lot. Let's talk about the other guys that are obviously competing. And as you said, these guys aren't 100% confirmed. They've just been offered an invite, but they are more than likely going to come, aren't they, Tony?
Look, the only two that I'm kind of in the air about is Brandon Curry and Steve Kuklo. Steve's really keen to come, but he's got to do something for his sponsor in China the week before. And Brandon, I think, is like 60, 40, 50. His coach is saying, I don't think so. And he's saying, I'm going to try everything I can. So those Kuwaiti guys kind of influence him a lot. And if he comes, he comes. I mean, he's won the show before. He should be here.
He'd be great to see,
2 weeks before in Columbus. So why not?
Yeah.
He was one great Chelsea.
Can I tell you all something really cool? Now, I've not said this publicly, so I'm going to make an announcement here tonight.
We like this.
So I've been going to Arnold Classic in Columbus for 28 years out of 30 or something. I've been probably 15 times, and I got confirmation when we were away that I'm actually going to MC the show this year. So
at where? At Columbus?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Wow. That's unreal.
Congratulations.
I've not really told anyone, so I thought I'd wait for tonight and tell you guys. It's been like my biggest dream since I was a little kid, to MC the Arnold or the Olympia. And I got the job, man. It's on. It's on.
Yeah.
100% locked in.
That's epic. Well done, mate.
Congrats, mate. Congrats. Next, after that, it'll be the Olympia. What are your chances there?
Yeah, I don't get nervous about many things, but I'm like, oh, shit.
I'll be at that Columbus one too, so I'll be up front and centre watching this. This will be good.
It's going to be, you know, I've sat back and watched that forever. And, you know, Arnold always has his family there and usually a few of his actor or celebrity Hollywood mates. And I'm like, oh, my God. And, you know, and he expects such a great performance. And I know he's going to put the pressure on me. And, you know, if I can just get a high five from him at the end of it, I'm just as happy as hell. But I'm just so stoked about it. And sort of feels weird even saying it out loud. So there you go.
No, that's unreal. That's awesome. That's massive, yeah. That's massive. So that means that you're going to obviously have to find a replacement to do your backstage interviews because me and Gally, we got nothing to do. And like, you can't do both, Tony. You know what I mean? Like, you know how good we are at them.
I don't do the interviews till after the show. And our ratings with NPC News Online have been, you know, the best they've ever been, and
they can only get better. They can only get better. They haven't seen the Gretsch Gully connection yet. You know what I mean? Like that there is fucking amazing.
You're selling this, Gretsch. I like it.
Oh, mate,
I'll talk to the boss. I haven't even told the boss that I'm emceeing the show yet. It's kind of like, and so this is really the first time I've said it out loud. So
we know we know what the people want. But anyway. Moving forward, I just want to take the workload off your shoulders. I know you're a busy man.
All right, we'll see what we can do.
Always thinking.
Don't worry. Hey, listen, I'm persistent. I'm persistent. We'll get there one day, Gally. We'll get there. Don't worry.
We will. One day. You'll be just like that Arnold interview.
Fuck, we're getting that this year. I'm telling you right now, Tony, we're getting that this year.
See what I'll do. After the show this year, I'll walk Arnold into our studio and get interviewed.
Done. Me and Tony had a little bit of a chat of how we're going to do the interviews this year. And Gally, I filled you in briefly, but
you're going to stand back while I interview him.
No. Listen, if I'm in the background doing these ones, or just a piece, I'm happy. I don't give a flying fuck.
Can you imagine the ratings and how many people are going to watch?
Well, I had an idea that when I interview him, in every single question that I ask, and this will fucking go viral, in every single question that I ask, I actually pull out a line from one of his movies. And
that'll go down real well.
I'm just talking subtly. I'm not talking about obvious.
Arnold's, look, it was always my dream to interview Arnold, and I've done it probably a dozen times around the world now. And he's in a way, he's the easiest and also the hardest person ever to interview because you have your questions, right? And you ask him a question, and he talks for 10 minutes, and he answers your next 3 questions before you even say them. So then you're thinking, shit, he's just said that one. Now I've got to think of my next thing. And when he's talking, you've got to be ready with your next question. Then he stops talking, and you've got to have a new one ready. And sometimes I'll have 10 questions in mind, for example, and I'm not allowed to have cheat sheets or notes, so I remember them meticulously. So it's like he's so easy because he can just talk and talk and talks. But then you're on the edge, thinking, shit, when's he going to stop talking and what am I going to say next? And he goes over to you.
No, look, I have memorised the questions that I want to ask him for the last 4 years. I know exactly the questions.
This is the problem, Mark. He answers them before you ask them. Then
and then you've got nothing to say. Yeah,
and then you look like an imbecile, and he's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
and he's always looking for a way to take the piss out of me any chance he gets. So
I know the second that I freeze and I don't know what to ask, I'm just going to literally say, I'll be back. And then walk away. Something fucking ridiculous. Hey, look.
I'll jump in.
Gally, you're good. I need you as my sidekick. Let's talk about the other guys that are on the list. We've got Jeffrey Becker. Now, he'd be close to retiring now. How old's Jeffrey?
Man, I don't know, but he was 4th last time he was out here, and he's a fantastic poser, and he's made great improvements. And he's probably the most excited out of anyone that I invited. He's a really good guy. He's all over social media and follows everything that we all do, and he loves Australia, man. So he's going to come out early, do some photo shoots and hang out, and he'll want to do an interview with you guys. Yeah, I'm sure. He's an interesting cat.
Beautiful. William Bonac. Now, William Bonac's going to be up there with obviously a top 3 contender and possibly one of the favourites. There was a little bit of controversy not controversy, but people were tick for tack with whether or not Rolley should have beaten William and William should have beaten. I don't know. I can't remember where you sat with that, Gally. I remember thinking, I know Rolley was a crowd favourite, and I think Rolley deserved it, but there was a lot of people in the crowd that thought William deserved it. Can you remember, Chris Galley, can you remember who you gave it to on the day?
I think me personally, I've been a Bonac fan from the first time I saw him, I don't know, years ago when he came out. But I think Bonac missed his condition slightly, I think, in the last show, and I think that's the reason why Rolley got past him, and that's it.
Well, you're right, Chris. There's two parts to that. Hang on, there's a police helicopter.
It's probably one of those African gangs, John, that you've got in Melbourne. You got a few of those now, don't you?
Anyway, so what happened is that in Columbus, Bonac definitely deserved to win. But 2 weeks later, Bonac did miss his peak at the pre-judging just by a bit, and Rolley improved, I reckon, 10 or 15% from Columbus, and it was already close. Look, Rolley has made such incredible improvements over the last 2-3 years. Bonac's been on from the last 3 years, from the Olympia. In fact, when I judged, I was next to Steve Weinberger on the panel in Barcelona, not 2018, 2017, and Rami won the show, but I had Bonac in front of him after the pre-judging. It was only Rami's posing he had such impact, and he hit his shots with the big bangs with the music, and he came up. But Bonac, I had him beating Rami at that show, and he's amazing, and when he hits his peak, he's very, very hard to beat. But Rolley continues to improve. Like Bonac, I don't think he's improved that much the last couple of years. He's just been that good since he nailed it. Whereas Rolley, man, I mean, if you want to talk about who could win the Olympia this year if Roden doesn't, right, man, if Rolley improves that much again, he's a dangerous, dangerous competitor.
Yeah, a lot of people are picking Rolley to win the Olympia.
And I read some stuff online that people were saying, Bonac should have beaten Rolley. It was because of the crowd. It was a big load of horse shit I've ever seen. I was at all the shows. I see these guys. I sit in the front row. I'm backstage with them. I thought Rolley won. It was close, but he won.
Yeah, I remember seeing him backstage. Remember that, Gally? We were in awe.
I've still got video footage of him pumping up.
Best part was watching Nathan James Williamson talk his ear off and Rolley not even fucking utter a word to him and just walk away. That was pretty fucking hilarious.
Did he get voted the most annoying pro?
Those two, Bonac and Rolley, are the best two pros on the circuit as far as just being good blokes,
Yeah,
just
cool.
They're just my favourite two people in the whole sport, at the press conferences, everything we do. Like Bonac at the Olympia in 2018 when he destroyed Cedric at the press conference was one of the funniest things I've ever seen, because he's a street guy, man. You wouldn't mess with him or Rolley. They've been around a little bit, and they don't take shit from anyone.
I think his gold teeth are just a perfect sign of someone that you just don't fuck with. Right. He is gangster.
He's from a different world, and I kind of relate to them both. And if there's two of the pros that you just sort of want to go out and have some fun with or go on a holiday with, it'd be those two every time.
I definitely want to party with Rolley. I reckon he 100% knows how to have a good time. The thing you mentioned about William Bonac and how he hasn't really improved much in comparison to Rolley, do you think that William has room to improve? Like, if he adds too much more muscle to that frame?
It's very gradual improvement, whereas Rolley's improved in leaps and bounds. You got to remember, both of those guys pretty much made their pro debut in Australia, which is why they always come back and support me, because I gave them a chance when no one else did. And I remember Neil Hill messaged me a few years ago, before anyone even knew who Bonac was. He goes, Tony, I've got to tell you, I've got this guy. He's going to be a top Olympian. Man, this guy's going all the way to the top. Can we get him to Australia? And I said, yeah. And I've always been really close with Neil. He's a really good guy. And he told me about Bonac long before anyone had ever heard of him. And he was right. And I said to him when I saw him, I go, man, if this guy just puts on a little bit more size, wow. And he did. But then the last couple of Olympias, I think the last 2 years, he's kind of hasn't gone forward as much as Rolley has. And you think, has he got room to improve? Well, you wouldn't have thought Rolley could have improved from 12 months ago, but the guy did. And he continues just to become more mutant with that small weight. See, when he first went to Kuwait and put on like 70 pound of muscle in a year, his stomach blew out. And he was one of the reasons that Arnold and Jim Mannion and all of them said they've got to control the stomachs. And he did more than anyone else. And now when he does a show, he's never out of condition. His stomach's completely under control. And the thing I love about them both is they both practice their posing. They're both perfect posers. I'm not talking about posing routines. I'm talking about quarter turns and compulsories. And at the Olympia last year, I keep saying this year, that's where Phil got outclassed by those guys because he couldn't hold his poses like they could. It was like he was so far winning the show, he didn't practice like they did. And I think Rolley and Bonac really, really practiced the craft and the art of bodybuilding, and I really admire it. And I think you got to come and see these guys. It's gonna be a real battle, and then with Josh pushing them both.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you two quick questions. Or I'm not going to. One's not even a question, but I love the fact that Rolley can't do a proper side tricep because he's so big. He can't grab his hand around his back. I fucking love the fact that he's actually that big. He can't do a proper side tricep. But when you mentioned Phil and you talk about how Phil got outclassed, do you think that he's actually going to compete either at the Olympia or ever again? Or do you reckon he's done?
Yeah, I think he'll compete again. I don't know if he'll do the Olympia this year. I just think he needs a little bit more time to get his head right. Obviously, he took the loss really badly. A lot of people have been critical of that, me included, to a point. But I also know how competitive Phil is, and I know how much he thought that he had a lock on that show. I was with him backstage before the show, and he felt sorry for the other guys because they were competing for second place because he thinks like a winner. And it's more than arrogance. It's not people think, oh, he's just so arrogant, he's so ahead of himself. He's not, man. He was 7-time Mr. Olympia. You've got every right to be thinking like a winner.
Yeah, but is that something is that what would have caused him to lose on the day? Because what's that saying? You know this, Chris, about the wolf climbing climbing the mountain is hungrier than the wolf at the top of the mountain or something. Shit. I know that because you love all wolf references.
An Arnold quote, and Arnold said, "Yeah, but the wolf at the top's always hungry." But it was sort of beyond that, and I just think that he just got outposed. And I was front row at the Olympia. I was going back and forth from backstage, and it was when Steve put them through that final pose at the prejudging again in the confirmation round that Phil ran out of gas, and that's when he couldn't control his stomach. That the others were posing so good, and Phil was like, "Oh, here we go again. Do we really have to do this?" And I think that cost him the show. Now, as to your question, will he compete again at the Olympia? Look, I wouldn't be surprised if he does. If not, he'll definitely compete again. And he always said that when he finishes with the Olympia, he's going to come and do the other shows around the world. And he's guaranteed me that he'll come and do the Arnold Australia is his last show when he's done with bodybuilding. So I don't doubt that. The other one that's kind of on the radar is Kai, because with Dan Solomon running the Olympia, I know that Dan went to New York as soon as he got the job and met with Kai and got Kai to come to the AMI offices. Now, I'm not saying that's done, but there's something going on there. And Kai's issue was with the previous administration of the Olympia. So, I see pictures of Kai and I talk to him regularly. He's always in shape, and the guy's like 4 weeks out of contest shape all the time. And imagine if he came back to the Olympia. And then you've got Bonac and Rami. Rami won't be out of shape again. He's working with Neil Hill. You got him and of course Roden defending his title. This Olympia is wide open. I think it's just so good for the sport, whatever happens.
Yeah. Gally, can you hear me? How big do my hands look right now?
Yeah, they look suspiciously big.
Anyway, another guy that I'm looking forward to interviewing, more so than actually seeing on stage, but definitely seeing on stage, is Luke Sandow. He was. Remember last year, Gally?
We saw him backstage,
and we went through the list, and we were like, we didn't interview him because we were worried that we didn't know his name. But we were worried that we picked the wrong name on the list, and we were going to ask him if he was someone else. We didn't want to piss him off. But I've heard a couple of interviews with him and seen his podcast, and he's a funny fucker, and I can't wait to actually have an interview and have a chat with him beforehand. But seeing him on stage, I see him as a potential top 5 Olympian in the next 2 to 3 years, definitely. What do you think?
Condition, that's it.
Yeah?
I think he was massive, man, in their last Australian Arnold's. He was.
Yeah.
He just was a bit smoother than the other guys, but he was huge. You know.
And I think he put that extra size and hadn't learned how to condition it, Chris.
Yeah, for sure. He was impressively large when you put him with those guys that came 4th, 5th, 6th in that range there. When you put him in there, I mean, he was standout. His size was standout.
Yeah.
And he's another crowd favourite. Everyone here loves him. I remember last year, when I was talking about getting him here, I got so many emails and messages that said, do anything you can, get the guy here. So for me, he was an automatic pick this year.
What happened with, how did you get Quincy Winklaar to come in? Like, I haven't seen much of him on the pro circuit, and I remember seeing him compete. He did the same Arnold Classic that I did back when I did the Arnold in Columbus. And this is back when he was an amateur. So this is how long ago I remember. But size difference in comparison to him and his brother. Is this the
Well,
first time?
he's doing a 212 in Columbus, and I don't have 212. So I think how it's unfolded, I don't know for sure, is Rolley said, come on, bro, let's go. Come Australia. It's awesome. And that would have been the conversation. So when I got the nominations, because they're alphabetical, it was, Rolley, Winklaar, Quincy, Winklaar. I go, I don't know, Rolley probably wants him. Sorry, the other way around. Quincy, Winklaar, Rolley, Winklaar. I thought, well, if Rolley wants him to come and it helps me to get Rolley here, he's in. And if he's anything like his brother, we're going to have a great time. So, he's not coming here to win the show, but their sister, Etienne, manages both of them. And she's the nicest lady you could ever imagine. She came out last year with Rolley. So I think he said, okay, bro, it's your turn, and you're already in shape, so come and compete. We'll have a great time.
I reckon a conversation would have went around likes of, Quincy, you should see the girls in Australia. You definitely got to come with me next year. 100%.
I don't think they struggle. Let's put it that way.
Oh, I can guarantee they don't. Look, there are a few names on the list that they're not too familiar. But look, we're going to come back to them at another time because I do want to
talk about other stuff. Come on, what else are we going to talk about?
Well, I do want to talk to you about. Wait a second, I'm just trying to look at our list. I want to talk to you about Ed Corney. So, obviously, Ed Corney passed away this week, and it's sad for the bodybuilding community. And if anyone's watched Pumping Iron, they definitely know who Ed Corney is, and he was known for his posing and just his classical look back in the day. Did you have much to do with Ed Corney at all personally, Tony?
I met him twice. I think I put a post up when he passed away just with a photo of him. I got to meet him at an expo I think one in Florida and one in San Francisco from memory. Sacramento and in Northern California. And I was just so thrilled to meet him. In fact, I should have put it on tonight. I've got an Ed Corney T-shirt that he gave me. And I'll treasure that forever. And he was amazing. And the guy was 85 years old. So it's not like he died young or anything like that. I think he had a great life. And I think he was a great friend and confidant of Arnold's for many, many years. And they trained together back in the day. And then I grew up with Pumping Iron. And I've still got my original Pumping Iron book in my office with Ed Corney on the cover and the original poster and all that sort of stuff. So I think it was a sad day for bodybuilding, but a life well lived. I think you can live your life like that. And, I remember in Pumping Iron, he's a 42-year-old nightclub owner from Hawaii. I thought, I love this guy.
Oh, really? Was he really?
Yeah.
Like he would have had a good life then, definitely. Then 85.
I think he led. I think he led a good life.
I met him when he was 80, and he was at the expo with like a tight T-shirt and his dark shades. I've just been the coolest old cat you've ever met.
Yeah, right.
Beautiful guy.
What were you going to say, Gully?
Oh yeah, I'd talked to him a couple of times at different expos, and that's how he was just happy. He was just you could just tell he loves bodybuilding, like loves it. And those expos I think meant a lot to him because he got to meet his fans. He always had people around talking to him, mate. A lot of people respected it. So I was the same, mate. I remember that Pumping Iron. That was the first bodybuilding DVD or video back then that I ever watched, and I distinctly remember Ed a lot in it. So yeah.
Tony, did you get a chance to watch the interview we did with Lee Priest a few weeks back?
Yeah, I did. I actually watched it the day before yesterday. Man, I loved it. I really enjoyed it because, I was around a lot of those shows that Lee talked about. And I was around a lot of those guys, Dillette and Nasser and Dorian and Sean Ray and all those kind of crew. I was travelling with the Pro Grand Prix with Sonny Schmidt for a lot of those years. And, I was with Lee at a lot of his shows, and he talked about, I think you guys asked him when was his best shape, and he said maybe 97 Olympia, and I had to agree. I was there. In fact, I've got a shot of him next to Sean Ray and Dorian, and he looked just phenomenal. I've known Lee since he was 17, and we've always got on great. I thought he was very truthful, as he always is in his interview, and he talked about when I called him when the split happened and all that sort of thing. And I've got a lot of time for Lee, and I think he says what he thinks. Sometimes he doesn't have that valve from his brain to his mouth and gets him into trouble, but I really enjoyed it. It sort of brought back for me a lot of memories, Mark, from those days on the road with those guys and some of the stuff that I saw and experienced and the camaraderie back then and the standard of bodybuilding back then. It was a really cool interview. Well done, Lee.
He did mention that. Yeah, when you mentioned that phone call, he did mention that you guys hadn't spoken for a while. Obviously, when the ban happened with the IFBB back in the day. He basically said that he just doesn't understand the politics of it all and that. But obviously there was a lot more behind it than just the politics.
Yeah, and look, I was between a rock and a hard place. You know, I had to sort of stay in the position I was in with the old administration to get to where we've got to today. And you know, Lee put himself outside of that world because he stuck to his guns, and I get that. And he, you know, had a fallout with Jim Mannion, which you know, I'm very close to Jim, and you guys know me very well. I'm a very, very loyal friend, and I never turned my back on Lee. I just didn't call him, you know. But when the split happened, he was actually one of the first people I called because I wanted to break the ice and say, hey, Lee, yeah, you're cool. Like, I never took down his pictures in my gym. I never stopped supporting him. I always watched his stuff and followed him on social media and that sort of thing. And he's made Andy Cunningham, and I also go back with a long, long way. And there's a lot of respect for Lee. I think he's done a lot for bodybuilding. He's done. He had an amazing career. You know, he's one of our best Aussies ever. You know, top 3 Aussies ever, in my opinion. And you know, I didn't have a problem with him saying that because it was the truth. I didn't speak to him. I don't know, it was 7 years, but it was a few years we didn't speak. And you know, but there was other times, you know, when he had been suspended, where I went into bat for him and got him his pro card back, you know. And he did do that Queensland show. Well, he won my pro show.
Gold Coast, wasn't it?
2005, he won. No, Gold Coast 2006, he got second to Ronnie Rockwell. And he was part of it, you know. And he was always outspoken, Lee. And then he got suspended at some stage. I can't remember what for. But I got him his pro card back. And he was going to do our pro show. And he tore his bicep off, actually helping his mum to move some furniture. It was a television he was lifting. He tore it off. And when he was injured with that, he went on some radio shows and said some dumb shit and got himself suspended again. So I'm like, shit, I've gone into bat for you again and again. There's not much I can do this time.
Yeah.
So, you know, when the split happened, I actually called Jim Mannion, and I'm happy to say that. I say, Jim, I want to bring Lee back in. You know, I want to have him feel welcome to come to our shows because he hasn't been welcome with the old administration. He hasn't been allowed to the shows. And I want to invite him to the qualifiers and to come to the Arnold and just to be our friend again because I never disliked the guy. It was just, I wouldn't even say it was politics. It was just a situation that I was in. And sometimes you get backed into a corner. You've got to do what you've got to do to get where you're going. You know, so for me, it was a happy phone call. We talked, you know, he didn't say that. We talked for half an hour. It wasn't just like, hey, Lee, you can come back. We just talked shit, as we always have. And, you know, we go back a long, long way. So, you know, respect to the dude.
Yeah, he loves to chat. Our interview went for 2 hours, but he was very respectful. And I think a lot of us have had our run-ins with Lee back in the day, and whether they're mediocre or they're actual serious run-ins. But no, he was very professional, and I have invited him to hand out a trophy out of our New South Wales qualifier. So I hope he does that. I hope
when he's in Melbourne, he can train at my gyms and, you know, hang out and just be Lee. And if, you know, I'll give him tickets to all the events that we've got on. Of course, he's down there with Viking clothing, I think. But whatever he does, he'll be down in the front row with everyone else, and he's very welcome.
Yeah. Beautiful. I don't know. What else can we talk about leading up to the Arnolds, Tony? Have you
well, what else can you ask about the history of bodybuilding? About anything you've got me right now, you can ask me any question you want.
History of bodybuilding, Gally.
History of bodybuilding. What do you want to know about the history of bodybuilding, Greg?
I'm going to ask you because is someone. Does that look weird with my knee up like that? Because I'm literally laying. Sorry,
a little bit too relaxed.
Sorry, man. I'm literally laying with my legs spread out that way. I haven't got used to it. I should be like this.
It looks like you had another dude there.
It wouldn't be surprising at all.
His name's
Did you say keep this professional, Greg?
Oh well, Jimmy, with our Pekowski interview, walked away for fucking three different. Pekowski was literally like getting awkward. Like, is this guy even interested in what I'm trying to say? And Jimmy just doesn't understand. Jimmy's got to come on later anyway because he's already messaging me asking. I've got a fucking funny story about Jimmy. I've got a pillow behind me. I hope that's not too obvious. Look, that photo that someone posted of you the other day on Muscle Asylum, it might have been your first show, Tony. And a lot of people don't actually know that you used to compete back in the day. How many shows did you actually do when you did compete?
I never counted them, but I started when I was like 18 and went till I was, I guess, 26 or something. And then when I started promoting IFBB, I'd sort of be wrong to keep doing shows, so I stopped. I think when I started promoting in Victoria, I went up and did a couple of shows in New South Wales. I did the Western Suburbs once, and I did the Australia that year in the novice category. And I might have done the heavyweights, I think. I can't remember. Anyway, I probably did a dozen, 15 shows, something like that. But of course, they picked out the show when I was like a teenager, with no muscles. But I got a bit better after that. I think the best I got on stage was at about 100 kilos, pretty ripped. And then it was interesting because when I stopped competing was when I started training with Sonny for the Olympias. And that's when I probably, became a much better bodybuilder. And I probably got in pretty reasonable shape at about 110 a couple of times, training with Sonny for the Olympias, but just didn't compete. I just to look good and just to support my mate. But I was competing originally like those shows in Sydney and at the Australia, I think under 90 and then over 90 for a while. And but then I got a whole lot bigger but not competed. So, yeah, I've always done bodybuilding, man.
Yeah. Sonny Schmidt, so he's obviously an interesting character. You want to tell us a little bit about Sonny Schmidt? Because we have spoken about him, I think, back in the early days, but we're YouTubing this shit now. West Side. So we got a bunch of different. Like, we could do so much shit, like, because we're on YouTube. I don't have any toys around me, but I could like.
But look, when Sonny, I took him to the States for his first pro shows. We went to Niagara Falls and we went to the Night of Champions, and no one had ever heard of him. And he didn't place well in Niagara Falls, and we had 3 or 4 weeks where we went to LA and we got an apartment there and lived there for a month and trained at Gold's and did the whole thing. That's what I got really inspired to do, the Doherty's gym and everything else. But he made such an improvement. He went to the Night of Champions in a huge lineup. And it was the year that Benaziza won and Dorian got second, and I emceed the show. And I was actually the first MC in America to introduce Dorian Yates. No one knows that, but here you go. There's a scoop. And, I remember Peter McGofford really hyped him up, and then Benaziza beat him. And Sonny got 6th in that show as a complete unknown. It was a really deep lineup with like 20-plus competitors. Then he went back a year later and got 2nd to Dorian and qualified for the Olympia. And he went to his first Olympia with no budget, none of the exotic, preparations that all the others were doing. He's from an island in the Pacific Ocean. And he got 6th in his first Olympia. A lot of Australians don't know, First Olympia. You think about that as a nobody with all the favourites and people say politics. The guy was 6th in his first Olympia.
And his condition was ridiculous, wasn't it?
Mate, his legs were phenomenal. Bigger legs. There's a picture up in my gym, Mick, I think you've both seen, black and white one of him, Matarazzo and Dorian standing from behind. And he's got the biggest legs by 25%. The guy had just phenomenal thighs and calves and great shape and a small waist. And Sonny just had a ball, man. He always just couldn't believe that he got to travel the world. He come from a little sand island in the Pacific Ocean and got to see the world. He loved those free tours more than anyone. But Sonny was a hard guy. He was a bouncer for a lot of years. He had a beautiful left hook. His family got brought up. They had a boxing tent, like a Jimmy Sharman boxing tent. And there was the 3 brothers. And for the right amount of money, you could go to these. They used to go around the towns in Samoa and in Auckland. And they'd have this boxing troupe. And his dad trained them. And, you put in the money and you got to fight a Schmidt brother. And they just knocked people out night after night after night. So he was a really hard unit, and he had a few run-ins with a few of the pros that he was a nice guy to a point. But if you pissed him off, you let him have it. I remember one Grand Prix we were on, and Dillette was playing this boombox over and over really loud. And so he said, man, I got a headache. Turn it off, turn it down. He kept going. And so he said, man, I told you. He picked up his stereo and just into the wall of the hotel, just smashed it into a million pieces and said, you're next.
Well, that probably explains his role on Underbelly then, because obviously he was. What was his connection with the underworld in Melbourne?
Oh, it was nothing, man. Look, apart from being on the door of all the nightclubs back in the day. But really, his downfall was at the end of his career, because he hadn't planned for anything after bodybuilding, and he sort of got into the party scene a little bit, and he'd go out and people would just always give him free stuff because he was a cool guy to stand around with, and we'd go to the nightclubs and we'd get free entry and we'd get into the VIP areas. And he just got sucked into that life, and he'd finished competing and kind of hadn't made plans for the future, and unfortunately got involved in the drug scene and just thought that might be the new life for him. And the first time he did anything, he got caught and went to prison, and it probably saved his life. But then he got really sick when he was in prison and died a few days after he got out, unfortunately. But I was with him through all of that, man. I watched the guy die. It was really hard thing because he was like my big brother. You know, I didn't have a big brother, and I travelled the world with Sonny. He taught me probably more about, you know, being a good human and being a good man, and you know, about how to think and just how to be cool than anyone else. And so I'd never judge him on a little bit of a mistake he made at the end of life, because everyone loved him. The judges, the promoters, all the other pros. No one disliked Sonny. Even NASA, who didn't like anyone, except, you know, he loved Sonny. Everyone did.
NASA was a racist too, apparently, judging from Lee's episode. You remember?
He didn't have a lot of time for a lot of people. And he'd tell them, and he'd tell these devastating stories about them, and he'd mess with them, and he'd tell them to take this and do that, and he'd play them off against each other. He was really evil in that way, but never with Sonny. He just loved him, and everyone did, man. It was just an amazing experience. It was funny, you know, because he'd always say to me, he was a little bit reckless, a little bit crazy. I'd say, don't do this and do that, and he'd say, why? Why not? I'm going to die young anyway. I'm never going to get old. And he said, probably dead when I'm 50, and he died when he turned 50. So, you know, I don't think he had a whole lot of regrets. I think towards the end, he probably done something really stupid, spent some time in jail. But man, I loved the guy. He was, you know, he was the best man at my wedding. He was my travel buddy for 10 years. We went to places we only dreamed of. And he taught me everything I know about training, all that mind and muscle stuff that I did with Muscle TV, and all the teaching and all the stuff I've, you know, taught over the years really came from me and him in the gym. Man, we used to train hard. Like when I first moved to Melbourne in '94, Sonny had been in San Diego living with Milos. He got caught into that whole California scene. You know, they were doing Newbane and all these painkillers and all that. And he got a bit messed up. And I said, man, just come home. And, you know, I was sleeping at the floor of the gym at the time. And he came back and he had this house out in the suburbs. And they used to have me in a couple of nights a week and feed me and give me somewhere to sleep. And then this house came up over the road from the gym. It was like $90 a week. So me and Sonny moved in. And we trained there for the next 2 years for the Olympias. And he got himself right and got off all that stuff. And, yeah, it was a really, really happy time, you know, through to when he won the Masters Olympia. And I think it was 95, 96 or something. And, yeah, man, it was a really special time for me. Just taught me so much. And it was just, you know, I think back, and it was probably the happiest time I ever had, because all we did was we get up in the morning, you know, we'd eat. About 11 o'clock we'd train, and people used to come to watch us train because the guy was brutal. He never missed one rep, never missed one set, and he was a quantity like me, like a he loved to do a lot of sets and a lot of reps, you know. So for legs, for example, we do 5 sets of extensions, 5 sets of squats, 5 sets of leg press, 5 sets of hack squats, 5 sets of lying hamstrings, 5 sets of kneeling hamstrings or standing hamstrings, 5 sets of stiff-legged deadlifts. Every time. We never missed one rep. And they were 20, 25 set reps. You know, and back day was 6 exercises, and shoulder day was 6 exercises, and chest day was 6 exercises.
How do you reckon he'd line up against our Aussie pros now? Say, for instance, next to Josh Luanowitz.
Well, it's a different time. You know, I think Lee said that really well on his video on his interview the other night. That, you know, a lot of things have changed, and he was great then, but would he be great now looking like that? Probably not. But he would have had different, you know, information and different access to different things that the pros know now that they didn't know back then. So I'd suggest that, you know, he'd stand up really well because, you know, at that level, bodybuilding's very much a game of genetics and mindset, and he had both. He had phenomenal genetics. You know, I can tell you stuff off air that he did early in his career, you know, and he just was just made to put on muscle. You know, yeah. he was phenomenal, and he was crazy. So it was good. And but I'll tell you the one thing, man, we trained hard. You know, the guy never broke his diet. He never missed one rep of one set. You know, and I remember I'd just be so injured. I'd say, I've got sore elbows or sore knees, and he'd just glare at me and just go, yeah, come on, man. Oh, all right. And we'd say, use reverse psychology. All right, you don't have to do that set. You can just sit there and watch. And, you know, yeah. Sonny was great, man. You know, I think anyone you talk to from back in that time, you talk to Levrone or Corney or Lee, Flex or any of those guys, man, they just loved him.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, Tony, we're going to wrap up. Well, we'll quickly. Is there anything that you want to say leading up to the Arnolds? Now, we're obviously going to get you on a few times before the Arnolds and the state qualifiers. But is there anything that you want to make mention to quickly to anyone out there?
So, you know, I'm really excited about all the state qualifiers. Obviously, if you're an Aussie, you have to do a state qualifier to compete in the Arnold. But remember, it's open to everyone in the world. There'll be a pro card for every category, so I'm really excited about that, and hope we see a few Aussies get up again. The pro show itself, I just urge you all to get online and buy some tickets and come and support our Australian pros and help us with the promotion of the sport. You know, it's we spent a whole year working on this. It cost a fortune to put on, and it's, you know, if we're going to keep it going, keep it growing, we need our Aussies to come along and support what we're doing, and to support Arnold's fitness crusade. So I just suggest, you know, encourage all the people in the show, share their stuff, spread the word, and just want to say thanks to everybody for their support and encouragement, all you guys and everybody else that's involved. There's been a groundswell of support this year, and I'm just really, really excited about it. You know, I'm an excitable sort of guy, you know that, but this year I just think it's something special. It's our fifth Arnold Classic, and for me it's just gone like that, you know. It's our 19th Australian pro show.
Crazy.
It's the third longest running pro show in the world. I remember when I started, everyone said, oh, that'll fail, you know, you'll do the first one and then you'll give up. And here we are, 19 years. I was just thinking about it the other day. I'm like, wow, where did that get to? How can it possibly be the fifth Arnold Classic already?
Yeah.
So I think we've got something to really celebrate this year. So I just want everyone to come and support. Anyone's got any questions about anything, just shoot me a DM or message me, whatever. I always answer my questions. And thank you guys for your support. I can't wait to have our team back there doing all the interviews, Mark at the gym and backstage and everything else. And you know, just wish you all the best. Yeah,
no, it's going to be fun. All right, Tony, thanks heaps for coming on. Anyone listening to this, you can either listen to this on iTunes, on SoundCloud, or you can watch all of our pretty faces on our YouTube now, which is really exciting. All right, Tony, thanks for coming on, mate. We're going to film a little bit now with Jimmy, and we're going to do a little bit of a rant section, because I've got something that I want to bring up. So, Tony, make sure I'll tag you in that too, so you can watch it after it's done.
I'll spread it everywhere. You watch this, it's going to get more views.
Beautiful. I'm happy. All right, brother. Thanks, mate. And thanks for listening. See you later. Bye-bye.
See you, Tony.